to, if your bill's paid, you could take the files and take it to whoever. I think recently a production of mine that I hit a brick wall with came over to your plate.
Yeah.
And that's totally cool. Like, I'm happy to have stuff go to you, and I'm happy also that, the artist is able to seek what's appropriate for him.
Yeah.
As far as mastering is concerned, I have a good friend in Atlanta from the studio I used to work out there that I usually send stuff out to him to master when it's up to me to decide who it's going to be sent off to. I think that I know the rooms that he's working in are top notch, and I know that he's very experienced. We used to call him Yoda because he's like the master Jedi.
Yeah.
So it's nice to have a relationship with your mastering engineer so you can get a little bit more feedback.
Yeah.
So my guy Miguel Scott in Atlanta, he's awesome, and basically I get records back from him, and after hearing his master, I laugh at my mix, how did he make it sound like come to life like that? I thought I brought it to life with the mix, and then
he takes it to the next level.
Yeah, and
that's all you could want from a mastering engineer, right?
Exactly. And I'm learning that mastering is probably one of the most important things in the whole process. Like, you could have a great mix and then a really bad master, and it's going to sound like a bad mix.
Yes,
or
that's true.
You could have a bad mix and get it really good master, and it'll sound like a pretty good mix.
Yeah, it's interesting. And I'm assuming you don't do too much stereo bus processing if you're sending it out for mastering.
I genuinely, throughout the whole process, I try not to do any master bus processing.
Really?
At all, until after I'm done with everything that I can do on the tracks themselves. And then I'll throw on a rough master. I'll compress and limit and EQ, not EQ tonally, but cut out 30 hertz.
Yeah.
And
a little top end boost maybe.
Even that I genuinely stay away from. Mm-hmm. Because I feel like the ball is still in my court. If I want more top end, then I'll get it out of the tracks themselves, not out of the master bus. And then when I send off the files to get mastered without the master bus, then he has it a lot closer to where I felt it was good. And by the time I get to the mastering stage, I've done everything that I can. Yeah. And then if I'm...
But you're sending it to him without even master bus compression or even...
No, but I might send my rough master with him as a reference.
Yeah.
So that he could understand the vibe. But what I do purposely put on the rough master, and I'll squish it a bit if I need to hear it nice and loud, and to hear how things pop out after that much compression is put on.
Yeah, because it's important to hear how the snare's transients are going to react with the limiter, basically. Exactly.
It's suddenly the snare after the master is way too sharp, and you didn't know that before, or the vocals are a little bit harsh or too loud, and it helps you get a better level. I'll do the little master thing, make it nice and loud, get a lot of sound out of the master bus, and then I'll turn my volume down real low, and I'll listen to what's sticking out.
I like that.
Do I hear the vocals and no music? That's a bad sign.
Yeah.
I should hear a pretty even mix turned down low. And then I'll turn it up real loud. And sometimes I mix louder than I probably should. For the most part, I mix at a good level, but sometimes I'm energy, and I'm I like feeling it. So I'll turn it up real loud, and then if I turn it up to where I think is loud, and something is making me squint or piercing me, or feel like the bass is eating up the whole room, then I get a better idea of what's happening. Don't necessarily do that for an hour straight, but check low, check high, check it with the master, and sometimes the clients will work with my rough master as the product also.
Yeah. It's interesting, your mix technique seems like a interesting hybrid of top-down mixing and not top-down mixing, do you know what I'm talking about when I say top-down mixing?
Not sure.
It's people who start with the stereo bus and work their way down, and but you're not doing any stereo bus, processing, yet you have all the buses, and it's interesting. Anyways,
well, it's almost like mastering, but on per file. If I've got 4 electric guitar tracks and 2 acoustic guitars that are separate roles in the song, and maybe a piano, and maybe I've got 4 different synthesizers, and then the drums. So the 4 synthesizers I'll bus together into a synth bus.
Yeah.
And then at least all those things kind of have control. Sometimes it'll be 4 synthesizers that are really playing the role of together to make one sound.
Yeah.
I've even had somebody bring in files where I've got 12 guitar tracks, and all of these guitar tracks are playing together to make this like really cool guitar sound in and of itself. Even though each guitar track is something completely different and a different vibe, but when you hear them all together, it creates this thing. So I'll bust these things together, and then if I need to EQ or do some compression on individual tracks, then I can.
Yeah.
Or I could just do it on the buses and kind of work my way like a funnel, like literally like the signal's just pouring down through my chain.
Yeah, I try to tell people when I use buses also, and I try to my analogy is like a river, right? So you have like little streams that turn into bigger rivers that turn into an ocean. You know, kind of like amazing. Is there anything I didn't ask you about that you'd like to share with the audience?
These days you have so many tools at your disposal. Like, first of all, you could have the studio in your house, which like 15, 20 years ago was much more difficult to do. Especially like to the levels now, like you could have really high quality studio in your house if you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, to warn people not to be so involved in which plugins I need to have. Like, I need to have the best plugins. I need to have the best this, the best that, a million microphones. But really, like, you can make great records with a $300 microphone, decent speakers to listen on, and a good interface. And you could use stock plugins for most of the stuff you need. I would try to warn people from having too many plugins.
Yeah.
Where like you spend more time getting lost in it as opposed to like using your ears.
Yeah.
My advice is to turn off your screen whenever possible when working.
Oh, I like that.
Like I do it all the time when I'm mixing. Is I'll turn off my screen and I'll sit in the sweet spot and just listen. You could close your eyes too, but then sometimes that makes you tired.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, nobody is gonna hear your music with the screen in front of them and seeing what you're doing and seeing that you use this fairly fancy looking reverb or compressor or whatever. Like, you should get an idea of what these things do, what they are in and of themselves. Like, work as hard as you can to get as much as you can from the stock stuff, and then as a need comes up, you buy new. And I don't buy new plugins hardly ever.
Yeah.
I recently, in the last year, I think I bought 3 plugins.
I love that.
Like, I bought the SSL channel strip, the CLA from Waves.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And I've been wanting an SSL channel strip because I had one in the studio I worked at in America for a long time. And since coming to Israel and having the UAD, I've been using a lot of the Neve channel strip, which it does a great job also. But there's something about the SSL that was magical. And the CLA also like has a lot of amazing features. Another thing that I saw, just as an example, why I bought a particular plugin, Waves makes the F6 dynamic EQ plugin.
Yeah, you were telling me about this.
So that's like a plugin that changes the game for me as far as, you know, multiband compression and de-essing and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Like, I still use a multiband compressor on my vocals because it still does what I want it to do. I don't have to change that just because I have a new plugin. I'll still use the one that was made 15 years ago. It still works great. But I don't know if it's 15 years ago. It might be like 10.
Like
but
the C4 or the C6.
The C4, exactly. I don't know when that was made, but it was a long time ago.
Yeah,
it's not a new plugin.
That's an old plugin.
Yeah, but I use it on everything. Not on everything in the song, but on every vocal that ever comes through my plate, I use that on.
Amazing.
And until I find something that, you know, maybe like I could get an isotope multiband compressor. I could pay for that and get that. But why? The C4 does the job.
Yeah, totally.
But the F6, it's not an EQ and it's not a compressor. It's both in one, and there's no other plugin that was out there that I had in my toolbox that did that.
Yeah.
To give me 6 bands that I could choose.
I love dynamic EQ. I use it all the time. I'm currently using the what's it called, the Fab Filter Pro Q3 as my dynamic EQ and my regular EQ, and I've used the Neutron one as well, and it's just amazing. Amazing what you could do with that stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So I see a lot of people using the Fab Filter stuff, and I think to myself, like, I would love to have that, but to spend the money on it when I've got so many tools.
And you have the F6 already.
And I have the F6, and
as long as you know what you're using, you know what you're doing with your tools, you know.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Like, have few tools, but much knowledge on the tools, young Jedi.
Yeah, exactly. Keep the go-tos with the tools and don't overthink it.
Exactly.
I love it. How can our audience find out more about you?
You could check out my website, mixedbyjohn.com.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Instagram, Facebook. I'm on Twitter, but not really on Twitter.
Like the rest of us.
Yeah. I'm a bird that doesn't tweet.
Yeah.
But, you could check me out online. And, thanks for having me, Ben.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure talking with you. Thank you so much for joining us on the podcast. Yeah, I'll see you around. Have a great day, man.
Thanks, man.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Secret Sonics. I hope you enjoyed my conversation with Jonathan as much as I did. If you enjoyed this episode or any of our other episodes, I would really appreciate it if you would go to iTunes and leave us a rating and review. That really helps the podcast move forward. In addition to that, you can subscribe on your favorite podcast app, and you could find out more at secretsonics.co, where you can also choose an app to subscribe to on. As always, I'm open to your feedback, and I would love to hear from you at secretsonics@gmail.com, where you can let me know what you want to hear about and who you want to hear from. Also, don't forget to subscribe to us on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram. Just search for Secret Sonics. That about wraps it up for this episode, so thank you so much for tuning in again, and until next time, I hope you guys have a great week and dig in.